Hello and holiday greetings again from our cul-de-sac. I'm Elizabeth Stinson, the cul-de-sac woman. As promised, we are back one last time before Christmas. First, we made an entree for a holiday buffet. Then we made hot chocolate for National Cocoa Day. We're going to finish our holiday time in the kitchen together with a dessert. I am combining two very old, ancient, classic cakes, both dating back to at least the 1600s. And I'm designating it for Christmas dessert. I'll see you back in the kitchen. Welcome back to my holiday kitchen. Today we are preparing Raspberry-Pear Linzer Galette. Perfect for Christmas. Galette is a French term for any flat, round, pastry-like cake, often filled, with its origin being the king cake for the three kings associated with Christmas. The Linzer Torte is an Austrian holiday classic, known for its delicious pastry crust and fruity filling. It was the dessert to master back when I was in chef school. I am marrying the two together because the crust or pastry is crucial to a galette. As you can see, it envelops most of the filling. So my Linzer-inspired pastry is perfect for this rustic, elegant galette. It is truly one of my most favorite things that I have ever made. Okay, galettes are easy to make, especially with a make-ahead holiday game plan. First, day one, prepare your butter and shortening parchment sheets. You will need 3 sheets of parchment paper, about 24 inches in length, and 1 piece of foil, a little longer than your parchment sheets. Have all 4 ready to go. On parchment sheet number 1, we are thinly slicing 1 stick of cold butter, a half a cup, about a 1/4 inch thick, and arranging the slices on our parchment sheet, all towards the center. You want to leave a border all the way around. We are using butter for a melt-in-your-mouth flavor and a golden baked surface. I'll finish this up for you here. That gave us about 20 slices of butter. Next, we will place parchment sheet number 2 directly on top of our butter slices. Then we will spread a half a cup of virgin coconut oil into about a 6 to 7 inch circle right in the center of our sheet. Not too thin. You don't want to spread it out too thin, about 6 to 7 inches. We're using the coconut oil for a biscuity, shortbread, pastry-like texture. Might be a little chunky, but don't worry about that. Just spread it out as best you can, like I said, about a 6 to 7 inch circle. You don't want it too thin. Now, if you can't find the virgin coconut oil in your grocery store, you can replace it with the regular vegetable shortening found in your baking aisle. Last, place your parchment sheet number 3 right on top of your coconut oil. Press a little bit. Then we are going to gently, loosely roll up our 3 sheets of parchment paper without smashing it. Not a real tight roll. Just roll it up all together. Then we're going to overwrap the entire thing in our large piece of foil that we have ready. Roll, roll, roll. Bunch your ends. Okay. Looks like a big piece of candy. We'll store this overnight in our freezer. That's it for day 1. You're excused. Go finish your Christmas cards. Day 2, we'll make our pastry dough, which consists of a flour mix, our butter and coconut oil sheets that we will not remove from the freezer until we need them, and a few liquid ingredients. First, we'll make our flour mix. In my food processor, I have 2 cups of 100% stone ground whole wheat flour. Much better for rustic elegance and you. To that, we will add, and I have pre-measured, 1 teaspoon of salt, 1 teaspoon of cream of tartar, and a half a teaspoon of cinnamon. Then 1 tablespoon of coconut sugar, and we'll talk about that later. Last, a half a cup of hazelnuts, raw, skin on. You can find them with all the other fancy nuts in your grocery produce section. An older term from them are filberts. Okay, lid on, and we'll process this just until the nuts are broken up enough to be evenly distributed throughout our flour. It doesn't have to be as finely ground as the flour, but you don't want whole chunky pieces of them in there either. Okay, that looks pretty good. I don't see any whole or large chunks of nuts in there. It's all mixed in well. Now I will go get our butter and coconut oil sheets from the freezer. I made one up for us yesterday. Okay, we're just going to loosen this up a little bit before we unwrap it. Okay. We're going to start adding our frozen coconut to our processor while it's on. It'll be a little hard, just break it up into pieces while it's running. Start adding your coconut. Okay, now I've moved on to adding our frozen butter slices. We're getting it all in there in one shot while our food processor is running. Now we have all of our frozen coconut oil pieces and butter slices combined with our flour mix, and I'm just pulsing it the last few times to ensure it's all in there, well mixed. I think I'll just take a quick look at it, scrape the sides down just a little before we add our liquids. Looks good. All right, lid back on. Now we will add our liquids. I'm measuring out a half a cup of ice cold water, but not letting any of the ice get into it. All right, now to that, I'm going to add 1 tablespoon of fresh squeezed cold lemon juice. Now I'm going to turn my food processor on, and here we go, I'll talk loud. We're going to pour it down into the processor while it's running in a very thin stream. Once it's all in, I'm going to watch it and start to pulse it. And we're going to stop running it as soon as most of it starts to clump and start moving around the food processor together. I'm going to help it out a little bit with a scrape. It will happen. Happens every time. Lid back on. See, that helped. See, there we go. All right. See, there's the clump, and most of it's clumping and starting to move around the food processor together. Stop right there. We don't want to overmix it. Okay. We'll divide our pastry dough into 2 pieces on our already used parchment sheets. That's fine. And then form them into a little disc, making it less work for us later. Okay, and then what we're going to do is we're going to wrap them up well so that they don't dry out. Each one. We can use our foil as well. And then what I'm going to do is store them in the refrigerator overnight, or at least 2 hours. But that's it for day 2. You can go about your business, finish wrapping your presents. Here we are, day 3, what we've all been waiting for. Assembling and baking, followed by eating. We're going to prepare our filling, Raspberry-Pear filling. Now, if it truly was the next day here, I would take our pastry dough out of the refrigerator now to soften up a bit while we prepare our filling. I like it to chill at least 2 hours before rolling it out. So I'm going to keep it in the refrigerator while we prepare our filling. Either way, you want it to still be cold, yet just soft enough to roll out. You don't want it to warm up too much or it'll be too difficult to work with. For our Raspberry-Pear filling, we need about 5 to 5.5 cups of sliced, skin-on, firm, ripe, red pears. Now, what I did was I halved my pears, and I just scooped the core out, the centers, with this regular spoon. Now, for nice bite-sized pieces, I'm going to cut them in half again, quartering them. Slice them about a 1/4 inch thick, not too thin. I recommend starting off with about 3 pears, but you may want to purchase 4 or 5 just to make sure you have enough. And I'll just measure as I go. I'll be right back with you. 3 pears actually yielded closer to 6 cups of sliced pears. And since we only need 5 to 5.5 cups for our galettes, I'll just snack on the extra. Now, back to that coconut sugar. I'm going to toss in 1/3 cup of organic coconut palm sugar. These days, you pretty much can find it right in your regular baking aisle. If not, check an organic section of your grocery store. Its appeal is its lower glycemic index. If you can't find coconut sugar, you can replace it with regular white granulated sugar in both the pastry and the filling in this recipe. It looks like a granulated brown sugar. We'll just toss that into our pears. We'll now add 1 tablespoon of orange juice. I just got it from my refrigerator, or whatever fruit juice you might have on hand. A 1/2 teaspoon of vanilla extract, and 1 tablespoon that I pre-measured of your 100% stone ground whole wheat flour. We'll mix all that together to evenly distribute everything with the pears. Last, gently toss in 1 cup of red raspberries. I prefer frozen because they hold their shape better. Now, scoop out just a little extra, about a 1/2 cup or so, and set them aside for decorating the tops of our galettes at the end. And just gently toss your raspberries into your pears. Our pastry dough did chill for a good 2 hours. I just pulled it from the refrigerator and I have it on, both of them on 2 baking sheets with fresh parchment sheets. As always, I tricked you into making 2, but over the holidays you'll have plenty of use for them. You can just smell the cinnamon and the hazelnuts. We're going to roll each one out into about a 10 or an 11-inch circle and then slide it right back onto your baking sheet. For a nice even round circle, just roll from the center out, not back and forth, all the way around to the edges. It'll cover about the entire width of your baking pan. There we go. There's our nice size 10 to 11-inch circle. I'll just slide it back onto our baking sheet and I will roll out the second one now. Beautiful. Our 2 pastry doughs are ready for our Raspberry-Pear filling. I will divide our filling evenly between the 2 of them, mounding it in the center, leaving a good 2 to 3 inch border all the way around. Now, take charge. We're going to fold our pastry dough all the way around our fruit filling to hold it in during baking. I'm using a spatula to help me out a little bit, just kind of folding and pressing and mending all the way around. And it will leave a nice little window at the top to show off your beautiful raspberry pear filling. And we'll give it all one last big hug. Okay, I'll move on to the next one now. Both of our galettes are nicely formed. Remember those raspberries we held out for decorating at the end? Here's where they come in. Just decorate the tops with your nice whole raspberries. Again, I'm using frozen. Arrange them all over the tops so that they have a nice look when they're baked up. We're going to bake them in a 350-degree Fahrenheit oven for 40 minutes until they're done. The edges will be browning but not burnt, and they'll be hot all the way through the center. I rotate them about halfway through the baking after 20 minutes just for a nice even baking. We'll be back when they're done and the house is filled with the aroma of holiday home baking. Our galettes have about 5 minutes left to go in the oven, real quick. You can combine our 3-day holiday game plan into one day. Make up your butter and shortening parchment sheets. First thing in the morning, store them in the freezer, go about your day, at least 2 hours. Then make up your pastry dough, remembering to allow 2 hours chill time in the refrigerator for that, or it will be difficult to work with and it won't bake up as nicely. Probably the most popular is the 2-day game plan. Make up your butter and shortening parchment sheets a day or 2 or 3 ahead of time, storing it in the freezer. Then on another day, go ahead and make up your pastry dough, remembering to allow 2 hours chill time in the refrigerator before assembling and baking. Here they are, our Raspberry-Pear Linzer galettes. They baked up beautifully and they're almost completely cooled. I can really smell those raspberries. For the holidays, let's drizzle the tops with some chocolate. I melted about 1/2 to 3/4 of a cup of dark chocolate pieces, made especially for melting, just a little easier to work with. Here's how to get a beautiful drizzle. Stir your melted chocolate with just a regular dinner fork. Then splatter the chocolate across the tops in kind of a back and forth crisscross motion. It doesn't take much. Less is more here. We just want an elegant, dainty garnish of chocolate. Then stop. It's a beautiful finishing touch. That's it for day 3, but this time stay here. We'll slice a piece in a minute. Here they are, Raspberry-Pear Linzer galettes, ready for service. Rustic elegance. They'll bring the warmth of an old-fashioned homemade Christmas to your holiday gatherings. I do recommend serving them at room temperature or warm out of the oven, but I know many of us will be making them a day or 2 in advance. So store them well wrapped in a separate storage container in the refrigerator, and then just remove them from the refrigerator 2 or 3 hours ahead of time before preparing them for service. Now, back to that slice. It's a hearty, biscuity, hazelnut, and cinnamon cookie filled with raspberries and pears, all drizzled with dark chocolate. It's a comfort dessert and perfect for Christmas. Happy holidays, everyone, and a very Merry Blessed Christmas. I'll see you back in the cul-de-sac next month in 2014.